you guys accept us with tremendous hospitality and open arms. We've been really fed a lot physically, like on every Mondays with John's life group. Oh man, you gotta check out the kind of food that we eat. And the Spanish congregation with tacos and like yesterday, it was great. So Gina and I, we are kind of complaining each other, saying that we gained so much weight. We got to lose some weight somehow before we return to Korea. So thank you. Thank you so much that you allowed us to stay here. I will cherish this love, hospitality, and share where we go with other our coworkers. So what do you see when you see these pictures? What would be the one common denominator? What would be the one common thing that you see? What was that? People that are lost. Very spiritual answer. All right, thank you. Yeah. Anybody else? Oops, not yet. That one's like, no, yeah, we saw this one already. All these, I'm sure there are more factors or areas that you could think about. Whenever you see one of these, whether it's about money, whether it's about fame, approval, even children, Testament, property, authority and power there. These are the in this generation, main factors of what we call success, right? So I just want to start out with a question for each one of us. If I ask you, what would be the most valuable, what would be the most foundational factor in your life that will guide you, that will help you in your decision making? Will it be a success? Or will it be a significant? I'm sharing how old I am, but in early 80s, when I entered as a freshman to my college, there was kind of a survey, I think it was on Newsweek or Times, to a lot of freshmen with this question: what was your motive to enter the college? And I was a little surprised when I saw how many responded, that over 70% responded saying, no, I came to college so I can get a better job. Or about 50% said, so I can find a better future spouse. Or less than 10% said, well, I want to pursue a further major study so that I can contribute to the society. Less than 10%. Wasn't it the main reason why colleges are founded? I'm sure if I were to ask to this generation, it would be over like 80, 90%. No, I go to college so I can find a better job, an opportunity to find a better job. There was a book, maybe you read it, you heard it, called Halftime. A Christian successful businessman who wrote a book called Halftime. It's about shifting from successful life to a significant life. And in that book, there's a really fascinating story that it shares. Like I can still remember, in 1980s, there was a fierce competition between Coca-Cola, and Pepsi, right? I can still remember some of the famous figures promoting Pepsis like Madonna, Michael Jackson, Tina Turner. They were all presenting Pepsi products. So feeling the urgency, Coke company called a kind of board meeting to devise a strategy to fight against Pepsi. And they came out with a lot of good ideas, and they said, hey, we have a new product here. It's called New Coke. Remember? With a better taste? And thinking that people buy this New Coke over Pepsi. But the result, the outcome was very disappointing. Pepsi was gaining more ground and more ground, so Coke company finally called the emergency meeting once again with long and intense discussions how to step up. And one by one, as the meeting progressed, they were talking about one thing that is really important. What would be the one foundational value for a 110-year Coke company, so Coke company? And then, at the end of long discussions, they came out with the consensus saying tradition. Tradition is an absolute value that we cannot compromise. It's not negotiable value. It's our foundational value. And they said, let's go back to the original Coke. And from there on, they start putting the label. What is it? No, not zero. Here, original Coke. On every Coke bottle, you will see this label, original Coke. And we worked. They regained their market shares, and now we can find Coke every part of the company, of the world. So I just want to start showing this story and ask to each one of you, what would be your most significant value that will guide you and help you in your decision-making process? In other words, what is your North Star? The passage we just read, maybe one of the most well-known parable that we can encounter in the Bible, the prodigal son spoken by, shared by Jesus, that really served me and remind me of what I do, not only in the mission field, but all the decisions that I need to make. So this passage, I'm going to divide into, it's easy to see, there are three parts that we can divide. The first one is about the first prodigal son. The second one is his homecoming or returning to home and how the father received him. And third portion is there's a second prodigal son that we can encounter, and then one application. So let's dig a little bit deeper. Okay, let's get the first prodigal son here, and we can see verse 12. We're gonna look at some verses here. Verse 12. His demand. This is a tremendous, outrageous demand that the second son is asking for. There's a biblical scholar named Kenneth Bailey, who's the expert on like a Mediterranean culture for the last 40 years or so. And as he was traveling many countries in Middle East, he asked, after sharing this prodigal son, with this kind of question. So now you heard the story of prodigal son in your village. Have you ever encountered a son like this one, in this prodigal son? And with emphatic answer, they said, no, we have never seen and heard a son like this. And he continues posing a question. Well, what if hypothetically, what if this son exists in your village? What would you do? And they said, we're going to drag him into the public place and we're going to stone to death. Stone to death? Isn't it kind of too severe punishment? Well, listen to us. In our culture, in our traditional society, inheritance goes out after his or her father dies. So the fact that this guy approached his father and asked for the inheritance, that means that I want you to drop dead. You don't exist in me, in my mind anymore. You are dead. So we'll drag him out, we'll stone to death. And that's a true story in a traditional society. So that's the outrageous demand that we can see here. How does Father respond? Same verse 12 here. The second part. And the younger son, the younger of them said to his father, Father, give me the portion of the goods that falls to me. And said, so he divided to them his livelihood. New King James Version. I like this one. New King James Version here. It says livelihood. Livelihood is more than a property. In the original word, the Greek word, it's called bios. And we hear this word so much, right? Biology. What is biology? It's a study of living organism, right? So bios means life. What is biotech? Study of engineering of life or something like that. So what this verse is telling us, what Jesus is portraying to all of us, is that it's not just the accumulation of some property that he is giving to this younger son. It's part of his life that is parting away for this younger son. Because in the Old Testament or in Jesus' era, it's not just a property or material. It's not just a material stands for, okay, you have a lot of money or you have a lot of material. It's more than that. It is a representation of your how you gather, how you accumulate this property. It's a representation of how you relate with other people. It's a representation of your identity. So he's giving away his livelihood, bios, portion of his life. And that's how outrageous the second sense demand was. We see the first, we identify the first prodigal son, and then the next slide, please. And then after he spent all his property, I think it lasted for a long time. The country where he lived, there was tremendous, devastating famine. He was about to die in hunger. So he was thinking that I better go back to my father's house and ask him to, hire me as one of his servants, to survive rather than die in hunger. He decided to go back. And so he was coming back to his father's home. And verse 20, let's look at verse 20 here. And it says, so he got up and went to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. He went to his son, threw his arms around him, and kissed him. Well, here we see our father's reaction as he comes back, as the younger son comes back. And there is you can see here the painting, a famous painter who painted vividly of this scene. His name is Rembrandt, right? The prodigal son, maybe reflecting his later days, the later years of his life. Anyway, so let's take a look at his picture here, his painting here, and Helen Wan, who wrote many Christian books, also wrote a book on this one, The Return of the Prodigal Son, coming back to his father's home. I'm going to borrow some of his perspectives here, and I have this pointer to use. Let's check out the condition of the younger son and the father and the older son here. Now, look at his feet. Is it left? Yeah, on the left foot, you don't see his shoes. His shoes is taken off here, right? On the right side, it's just half loosed, something like that. And the shoes represent the kind of journey that you have lived. And it's obviously it's not the ordinary journey that he lived. And then look at the garment compared to the father and older brother here. He doesn't have a outer garment here. And the outer garment is not only for, in that era, as a blanket during the cold night, but also represents reputation. In a sense, his position, his identity too. He doesn't have any garment here, right? And more than that, look at his hair. Does he have hair? He doesn't have any hair. Where do you find a person without hair in our society? Homeless? Homeless, there are many men with a lot of hair. Where do you find a man without hair? Now, I'm not talking about bald like me or like some of you guys. Where? Prison. No? In a prison, we see men without hair. So there are a couple of distinctive characteristics about prison or prisoners. They don't have hair, and they don't have name, don't they? They only have numbers, right? What is that supposed to mean? What does this Rembrandt try to deploy to all of us? Is that whatever the kind of lifestyle that you have outside right now, you're nobody. You've been called Mr. CEO, President, and all that. But right now, you're anonymous. You just have a number. In the Old Testament, name represent his identity. I don't know whether I was contemplating to share with you this verse or not, but if you have a Bible like Daniel, just one example, the importance of name, Daniel chapter 2. Okay. Daniel chapter 2. and 24 to 26. And it says, therefore Daniel went to Arioch, whom the king had appointed to destroy the wise men of Babylon. He went and said thus to him, do not destroy this wise man of Babylon. Take me before the king, and I will tell the king the interpretation. The Arioch quickly brought Daniel before the king and said thus to him, I have found a man of the captives of Judah who will make known to me, to the king, the interpretation. The king answered and said to Daniel, whose name was what? Belteshazzar, are you able to make known to me the dream which I have seen and its interpretation? Why do we see here two names? Daniel obviously means what? Daniel means what? God is my judge, right? God is my judge. It's Hebrew name, right? He identifies who he is, spiritually speaking. But Belteshazzar means Bel, the God of Babylon, is my protector. Now we see two names here. Who is he? On one name, on one side, Daniel means I'm with God. I'm Jewish. I'm Jew. I'm a religious person. I pray to God every day, 3 times a day. And on the other side, Belteshazzar, meaning what? I'm a secretary of the state. I have this duty to perform. Why do we see two names here? It's because in a pluralistic society, that's who we are. We are Christian, and at the same time, we have some kind of duty that God has called us to complete and to fulfill. How is it possible that we can balance between the two? It's not either or performance. It's both and identity. So Daniel and Belteshazzar, while he has a tremendous intimate relationship with God, faithfully serving God, he was recognized by God, he's my servant. And on the other hand, by this king, the secular king, he's also, right, recognized he's my servant. And this king was tremendously influenced by the faith and how he, governed and helped his country for well-being. That's what it means. That's what it means when we hear a name here, and we see here this guy, a younger son, portrayed without hair, meaning I have no identity. I'm lost completely. I don't know who I am. The only, you might not be able to see it here, Rembrandt drew one particular detailed thing here is that the dagger, it's a small dagger, and you go back home and check out this painting. But dagger, and according to Henry Nguyen, he says dagger represent his relationship with dad, that he's a son to his father. So he came home, right? And so verse, when father saw him, how does he react? Right? And he arose and came to his father, but when he was still a great way off, his father saw him and had compassion, and ran and fell on his neck and kissed him. Couple of things that I want to share here. He ran to him. In Eastern culture, in the Asian traditional society, men don't run. They wear a long robe, and it's awfully hard, physically awfully hard to go off and run. It's almost impossible. And to show other people the bare skin, no, it's so shameful. You don't do that. In the Asian society, you don't do that. But what did he do? How did he react when he saw his younger son coming? He ran. Not only ran to greet him, he put his arms around him and kissed him. So maybe a kiss to his cheek, possibility, but wrapping his, with his arm, the neck, and what Jesus is portraying to us here? What he's trying to tell us here? The attributes of compassionate God the Father, right? That has two attributes. One of them is masculine attributes, and the other one is feminine attributes. Let's take a look at here. That we can identify both attributes of God the Father's compassion. Look at it's the right hand. Isn't it compared to the left hand? Is it like kind of a different posture, position? A little bit right hand, a little bit like soft, caressing, holding kindly and tenderly, as if say, I feel your pain. I know how much you struggled and suffered. And I've been thinking of you daily. I've been praying to God that you come back someday and join the meal together. Thank you for coming back. Feminine side, right? And look at the left hand, stretched out, right? His fingers are stretched out, firm, strong, as if he's saying that you're mine. I can see how much you struggled, the kind of difficulties that you went through. I know that you're going to come back. And you are with me. And we're going to enjoy and experience what God has bestowed us. All the blessings that we have with me in this home. We're going to share together. Feminine side of God's compassion, masculine side of God's compassion that we can see from the Father's reaction here. The third one. Let's see, third slide. There's one more prodigal son that we find. Who is he? Older son, obviously. Let's take a look at some of the verses that demonstrate that he was truly a prodigal son. Verse 28. Verse 28 says, but he was angry. It will not go in. He was angry, right? Why was he angry? Why was he angry? Yeah? He's jealous, right? Maybe also he might be thinking about, hey, the inheritance that I'm going to receive or that I'm going to have later on, God is using it for this guy. He's calling all the village people to celebrate. Whose money is it? His money. Isn't it? The older brother's portion. So he might be thinking about, I'm losing my money here because of him, right? So he was angry. And then, verse 29. Verse 29, it says, so he answered and said to his father, Lo. And the new NIV says, look. Huh? In Asian country, any son who approaches his dad, his father, and said, look, man, that will be last time they will see him. You don't call your dad, look here. No, but that's how he expressed to his dad. Degrading the dignity of his father. And then, verse 30. But as soon as his son But as soon as this son of this son of yours come, this son of yours, isn't he his younger brother? He's not even calling him when my younger brother came. He said, this son of yours who came, who returned. What was the motive? 29. We go back to 29 once again. He says, so he answered and said to his father, there are many years I've been serving you. I never transgressed your command. I always obey your commandment at any time. And yeah, you never gave me a young goat that I might make merry with my friends. That's the whole motive, why he was so angry. Why he was so angry was that all throughout my life, I've obeyed you. I've never complained about my duties. I did it. But here, the motive that we can see in his answers is that, what was his motive of his obedience? What was his motive? His motive was what? To gain something through his obedience. We don't hear any genuine love for his father because I love you and I obeyed you. Doesn't say here. He says, no, I was thinking about getting all these portions. And that's why I never complained to, your commandments, your orders, and never complied faithfully, fulfill my duties, responsibilities, so that I might gain something out of my obedience here. It was self-righteous. Jesus saying, that is awfully hard to detect because the good deeds and even religious activities and your prayers could be a stumbling block to come before God. The younger son, it's kind of obvious, right? The visual sins, wrongdoings, shortcomings. We can see and you can realize, you can identify, I've done something wrong. You come to God and with a repentant heart saying, I've done something wrong, Lord. But with the older son here, I've done great things. I'm going to put deacons here. I'm a deacon of this church. I come here an hour before the service starts. I pray. I offer the tithe and all these things. I'm not saying that they are but it is very difficult to detect a person who is self-righteous. The only thing that I can think about, whether that person is self-righteous or not, Christian community is there a true joy in your service? Or do you have tendency, I'm including, irritation, attitude of superiority, anger, and I do such a good things for this community, for this church, right? Why does Jesus tell us about this parable? That there's people among us who can identify with the younger son's lifestyle. I'm on my own. This is my life. I'll make my own decision, right? And the older son, I've been faithful. I don't know how many older sons here. The oldest one. I've been really responsible and faithful, and there's no joy in service. Just want to share one last verse. And as a conclusion, Hebrews chapter 13, verse 12. Hebrews chapter 13, verse 12. And so Jesus also suffered outside the city gate to make the people holy through his own blood. Read once again. And so Jesus also suffered outside the city gate to make the people holy through his own blood. So Jesus sees all of us that we identify either with the younger son's lifestyle or the older son's lifestyle. And from his perspective, there's no difference. We are all lost. And in traditional society, who should go outside of father's house and look for the lost one? It's got to be older brother. It's not dad. It's got to be older brother. But he, look, or the painting is not, so bright here, but you see the glow from father's face and then goes through the son, the younger son, the prodigal son, as if he's covering his whole body. But look at the glow of the older son here. Just stays within himself. It's not going out. It's not reaching out. Right? Jesus is sharing this parable with us, saying that I am the true older brother. I know you're lost. And I will go out and reach out and call your name, each one of you, so I can bring you in. And Hebrews chapter 13, verse 12 says what? He obeyed God not to gain his righteousness, but with his genuine love for God. So because of this perfect obedience toward God the Father, he should receive all the blessings that God offers. But at the cross, what does he cry out? Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. My God, why have you forsaken me? He was cut off so that you and I, we could go in. And not only he was cut off, but he died outside of the gate. He was dragged out, pulled out, in spite of all the perfect obedience that we see here. Why? So that you and I, we could brought in to this city, which represents Father's home, represents peace, a shalom, prosperity, intimate relationship with God and with other people. So, I just want to leave this question once again to each one of us this morning as we go out. We have a second half of our life. And we have an option to choose between successful life or significant life. And for me, in my mission field, in my life, this passage has been a foundation for me in all my decision makings. To have a significant influence to people around me. Let's pray. Lord, we thank you. We thank you for your word this morning. that we'll be able to identify either with the younger son's lifestyle, that my life is my own, or the older son's lifestyle, self-righteousness. We humbly come before you, realizing that you are the true big brother who intervened